climate change, productivity, post-harvest loss, you name it. There are many, many. You know, agriculture is dealing with human beings. It's easy to build roads and bridges and so on, but agriculture, you deal with human beings and nature. So the challenges are quite difficult there. Another area, perhaps not so low, but definitely promising sector here is the extractives. I think many of our countries in this region have come into natural resources, the extractive sector. Now, we need to be very careful how we exploit this without destroying the environment for the next generation, without destroying our ongoing economy and turn this into the icing on the cake. But whether it's oil, gold, and many of the extractive, this is another low-hanging fruit. The service sector is also another low-hanging fruit. In the other sectors, such as infrastructure, services, it's a lot of investment from the private sector, both FDI, foreign direct investment, as well as domestic investment. But there is a lot of private. And then there are some areas that are both public and private. In fact, increasingly now we're seeing PPP, public-private partnership, become the model of financing big infrastructure projects. So there's both, and then there's the middle ground that includes both the public and private.
We value your feedback and welcome any comments, queries, or complaints regarding our news content. You can get in touch with us on SMS 22155, call 0719 012 450, or email feedback@standardmedia.co.ke, or you can send us a letter on Post Office Box 30080-00100, or deliver it to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi.
English Premier League sensations Everton will bring the game home. Kariobangi Sharks will go down in history as the first Kenyan team to host Everton in Kenya. July the 7th, tukutane Kasarani. Sport Pesa, make it count.
Usingoje hadi dakika ya mwisho. Pimwa kwenye hospitali ya serikali. Matibabu inapatikana bila malipo. TB inakinga na tiba.
Drops it down.
English Premier League sensations Everton will bring the game home. Kariobangi Sharks will go down in history as the first Kenyan team to host Everton in Kenya. July the 7th, tukutane Kasarani. Sport Pesa, make it count.
This is KTN News.
Greetings and a warm welcome. This is Bottom Line Africa. Happy New Week.
We bring you up to speed with what is happening in the motherland, Africa. From the coup attempt in Ethiopia, we inform you about the latest developments, even as we have a one-on-one conversation on this edition of Bottom Line Africa with the Ethiopian ambassador to Kenya. Once again, welcome to the broadcast. I'm Jesse Rogers. Let's take a look at some of the stories we'll be highlighting for you during this one-hour broadcast. Ethiopia's Army Chief of Staff, General Sare Mekonnen, and at least 3 other senior officials killed during a coup attempt by an army general in the northern state of Amhara. Congolese opposition figure and former warlord Jean-Pierre Bemba returns to Kinshasa less than a year after being convicted and acquitted by the International Criminal Court. Mauritania's government-backed candidate Mohamed Ould Ghazouani won the presidential election, cementing the power of a ruling party that has positioned itself as an ally of the West. And Ethiopia's ambassador to Kenya, Meles Alem, speaks on doubled-up initiatives to mark the 55th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two neighboring countries. Thank you for joining us. We begin with an update from the weekend's attempted coup in Ethiopia now. We're getting reports that the Attorney General for Ethiopia's northern Amhara state, Migbara Kedebe, has died from his injuries following Saturday's gun attack in the regional capital, Bahri Dar. The federal government described the attack as a coup attempt as people tried to overthrow the state government. It had been reported that Migbara had been injured while the governor of Amhara, Ambachu Mokonnen, and his senior advisor, Ezez Wasiewere, were killed when gunmen entered an office where the men were. Hours later, the chief of staff of the army, General Sare Mekonnen, was shot dead by his own bodyguard in the capital, Addis Ababa. Abiy's office named Amhara State Security Head General Asmniu Tige as responsible for the foiled coup.
In a measure they took against the region's leadership, who were on a meeting, the region's president, Honorable Dr. Ambachu Mokonnen, and his advisor, Mr. Azeze Wasi, have lost their lives. Mr. Mibaru Kebede, another member of the leadership, and the region's general attorney, who was also in the same meeting, was wounded and is receiving care at the hospital.
Now, Ethiopia has declared a national day of mourning to mark the deaths of 4 top officials in what the government is saying were coordinated killings as part of a coup attempt in northern Amhara state. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the general had been trying to prevent plotters carrying out a coup in Amhara state, one of Ethiopia's 9 federal states. Since coming to power last year, Abiy Ahmed has tried to spearhead political reforms to open up the once isolated, security-obsessed country of over 100 million people on the Horn of Africa.
The people of Ethiopia don't want a repressive and killer government. They have proved that it is possible to remove dictators with unified and democratic struggles. In past years, the people of Ethiopia have, with a unified voice, showed that they will not accept governments that have attitude of dictatorship.
Moving on, Sudan's military council has said that Ethiopia and the African Union need to unify their efforts to mediate between the council and an opposition coalition on the structure of the country's transitional government. The ruling generals and the coalition have been wrangling for weeks over what form Sudan's transitional government would take after the military deposed longtime President Omar al-Bashir on April the 11th. Both Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the African Union have been trying to mediate between the sides. The council's spokesman, Lieutenant General Shams El-Din Kabashi, said on Sunday the council has rejected Ethiopia's proposal, which the opposition coalition agreed to on Saturday, but had agreed in principle to the AU's plan.
When we realized that the Ethiopian envoy was taking a lot of time, we warned him that time goes by fast. and that we believe there is an improved atmosphere at the moment that is conducive to negotiations. The Military Council emphasizes that there are many local, regional, and international initiatives from allied countries, the Arab League, the initiative from our brothers in South Sudan and Nigeria. We welcomed all those initiatives, and we asked them to wait in order to give the joint initiative from Ethiopia and African Union a chance. We believe that any initiative, wherever it may originate from, must be placed under the authority of the African Union. The President of the Military Council underlined the mediators' efforts should focus on preparing a joint proposal from Ethiopia and the African Union in order to bring views closer to one another, and that it favors negotiations and not harbor preconceptions.
Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo opposition leader Jean-Pierre Bemba was welcomed by thousands of supporters on his return to the capital, Kinshasa, on Sunday. Bemba was acquitted of war crimes by the International Criminal Court after serving 10 years in prison. He was barred from standing in the December election that voted opposition leader Felix Tshisekedi in. Bemba joined the Lamuka coalition led by Martin Fayulu, who welcomed him at the airport on Sunday. The government has not yet been formed, and the opposition has lost a number of deputies over allegations of legislative election fraud. On his Twitter feed, Bemba said he had come back to reinforce a unity of views and actions for a prosperous Congo.
Bemba's role today, if we want to talk about the opposition, the one and only real opposition, it's Bemba. Bemba is the incarnation of the opposition. He has come to show to those who stole from the people, those who stole power, that is back. He's here to make the opposition.
Now, former Benin President Thomas Boni Yayi left the country on Saturday for health reasons, a spokesperson for his party said, after 2 months of political crisis following controversial elections in April. Boni Yayi, who had been under effective house arrest in northern Benin, left after his health deteriorated rapidly. His surprise departure came after weeks of tension between President Patrice Talon and his predecessor. Protests first erupted in Benin after April 28th parliamentary elections. At least 2 people have died in clashes with police who resorted to gunfire.
Your fight has not been in vain, even if you're still at the first stage of the restoration of a democracy, and this necessarily involves the departure of the Parliament of Blood and the resumption of legislative elections. We now have serious reasons to hope for an immediate and definitive victory for democracy in our country, the cradle of sovereign national conferences and a showcase of democracy in Africa. The return of the army to the barracks then becomes a categorical imperative and a prerequisite for any dialogue and any quest for national consensus.
Moving on, Mauritania's government-backed candidate, Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, won the presidential election on Sunday, cementing the power of a ruling party that has positioned itself as an ally of the West against Islamist militants. The Electoral Commission declared Ghazouani winner late on Saturday with 52% of the vote. His nearest rival, anti-slavery campaigner Biram Da Abid, came second with 18.58%, while third-placed candidate Mohamed Boubacar, who is backed by Mauritania's biggest Islamist party, got 17.85%. The election was a first in a sparsely populated Saharan nation's history since independence from France in 1960 to choose a successor to a democratically elected president. None of the 3 remaining candidates got more than 10%.
d'inscrits.
Number of voters, 967,594. Blank votes, 28,800. Neutral votes, 9,484. Votes expressed, 929,310. Participation rate, 62.66%. Following the orders of the Constitutional Council, the results of the candidates are as follows. Mohammed Sheikh Mohammed Ahmed Ganzwani, 483,312. That is 52.1%. Sidi Mohammed Bubakar, 166,058. That is 17.87%. Biram Da Abeid, 172,656. That is 18.58%. What we saw was that the government lost the electoral battle in the presidential elections 2019. Yesterday in the early afternoon, we saw measures were taken aimed at installing a post-electoral crisis. Measures aimed at stealing the victory and the hope the people of Mauritania had against the system, which has oppressed them for so long.
Now, the World Health Organization says nearly half of the world's population is at risk of contracting malaria. Efforts to fight the disease take two paths: fighting the disease itself and fighting the mosquitoes that carry the disease. Maryland researchers are testing a novel new way to kill mosquitoes.
According to the Severe Malaria Observatory, the mosquito-borne disease is the leading cause of child mortality in the African nation of Burkina Faso. It's a loss no parent should have to suffer.
Losing a child was really painful for me, or for any parent for that matter. So if we can find a solution against this disease which killed my child, other people we will thank God. They should do everything to eradicate this disease. They should help us. We have hope and we are happy with how far the project has gone.
More than half of the world's population is at risk of contracting the disease, but it's a unique problem in Africa. And that's where University of Maryland researchers are testing a fungus that kills mosquitoes on contact.
I have nice blood, right?
We took a gene from a spider, and we put that spider gene, which encodes an insect-selective toxin, we put that gene into the fungus under the control of a promoter, and the promoter is the on-off switch of a gene. So under the control of this promoter, which only turns on in insect blood.
The fungus works quickly and effectively on malaria-carrying mosquitoes the moment it comes in contact with the insects.
Out of the box, if they land anywhere on the outside of a mosquito, they'll recognize that they're on a mosquito and they'll burrow their way into the mosquito.
In tests, once the fungus was introduced into a mosquito population, the mosquitoes were gone in a month. But success in the lab doesn't mean success in the field. So the team is testing their mosquito-killing fungus in Burkina Faso, with the help of researchers there. Using raw meat, the team attracts mosquitoes into these test rooms. Once inside, they rest on a black cloth that has been treated with the fungus. The results are swift.
Well, basically, within 2 generations, we've killed 99% of the mosquitoes. So we caused the mosquito population to collapse.
The researchers say that the dramatic results of their test and using their treatment along with insecticides could have a big impact on fighting malaria, and also could be adapted to fight other diseases like Zika or dengue.
Now, Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya has set up electronic sensors to monitor the animals in an effort to stop poaching and protect livestock that share the lands with the lions, rhinos and other wild beasts. Sarah Kimani reports from Laikipia in northern Kenya.
Olpejeta Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya's north is home to more than 150 rhinos. It is easy to spot them as well as other wildlife roaming freely. Maybe too easy. Poachers kill hundreds of rhinos each year for their horns, which are prized in Asia. That's why workers are setting up remote monitoring facilities to protect the wildlife here. This is where all the data will land. A lab set up with the help of tech company Liquid Telecom. With the data, park rangers will be able to tell where the parks of wildlife are in the vast sanctuary.
Traditionally, we have monitored those corridors by checking for footprints and estimating how many animals of certain species have moved either in or out. So with the technology of cameras, then we are able to tell with certainty that specific animals have moved in and out because they can be counted.
The technology is also meant to protect livestock from natural predators.
They lose about 60 cattle a year to the lions. So if you can, if you can track the positions of lions, if you can track the positions of cows, you can start to predict and help the farmers to make sure that they lose less, so they can move their cattle away when the lions are hunting. So these are the sorts of things that can make a difference.
Data from remote sensors is collected by a software platform called Earth Ranger and sent to the lab.
It helps in making decisions and linking different sensors together in one platform to make a sober decision, either to prevent conflict, either to look at resources utilization and how they are being utilized in space.
Kenya and other sub-Saharan African countries have fought an uphill battle against poachers who also kill elephants for their ivory. The Conservancy spends at least $10,000 every year to protect the animals from poachers. Officials hope the new technology will help bring down this cost and help stamp Kenya as a destination for wildlife tourism. Sarah Kimani for VOA News, Laikipia.
Now, more than 500 vultures have died after feeding on poisoned elephant carcasses in one of the few confirmed cases of poachers directly targeting vultures. Botswana has announced the lifting of the ban on elephant hunting, a highly criticized international measure rooted in the many human-animal conflicts in this rural South African country.
This is all that remains of the elephant that was shot in this farmer's field in northern Botswana 2 weeks ago.
The elephant came from this direction in the forest.
Ishmael Simasiku's crops had been destroyed several times by the animals, so when this elephant went for his watermelons, he did everything he could to scare it off. But the distress flare and warning shots did not work.
Started eating my crops. And then it was the time when I shot it with one bullet, and it ran over there where you saw the carcasses there, and it fell there. And it died there.
Botswana's elephant population has increased nearly tenfold since 1970, numbering around 130,000 today, according to the UN Environment Programme. And incidents between people and the animals have become common. One of the reasons why the government has lifted the hunting ban.
Well, let me tell you that personally, I'm so excited. Not only me, but the 5,000 people that lives in the Chobe enclave. It's a welcome move, I must say.
In 2018, elephants damaged or destroyed 9,000 properties and killed 15 people. In the north of Botswana, where they are most numerous, walking at night has become very risky. Dorcas lost her brother in April when he was attacked by an elephant on his way home.
It stamped on his chest. He stamped on his chest, his liver burst, his hand rib broke, and that is what caused the death. So you can imagine looking at the elephant, seeing that this is the end of your life.
Wildlife-based tourism is the second largest contributor to Botswana's GDP, but locals like Dorcas fear being overrun by the increasing elephant population.
All they're interested in is to come and see those animals, yet they just see them for a few minutes or for a few hours, and they go back where they're comfortable. We're in trouble. Something really needs to be done.
While locals have welcomed the move, it has been highly criticized by environmentalists abroad. With the 400 hunting permits to be issued annually, the government ensures the elephant population will not be endangered.
Now, the persistence of Congo's Ebola outbreak and its deadly spread to Uganda in recent days shows how societal issues are as crucial as scientific advances in controlling disease outbreaks, specialists in global public health say. Anana Bevan with that report.
The effort to stop the latest outbreak of Ebola, the second largest in history, is hitting a barrier. Despite huge medical advances in controlling the spread of the disease, health officials say it's society, the human factor, that is proving in some ways the most difficult. Reuters health correspondent Kate Kelland.
The societal issues we're talking about here really are about the way people behave and the way people feel. It's about mistrust or confidence, it's about fear, it's about habits and customs. And what public health officials are saying is that you can have all the best scientific tools in the world. You can have a vaccine, you can have drugs, you can have treatment, you can have clinics. But if you can't bring people with you and you can't win their confidence and their trust, then you can't put those tools into action to stop the outbreak.
Scientists worked quickly to develop cutting-edge treatments that they had hoped would prevent or halt future outbreaks of the virus after Ebola devastated parts of West Africa between 2013 and 2016. But the current epidemic in the Democratic Republic of Congo is continuing to spread relentlessly, despite the scientific advances, and it's now claimed lives in neighbouring Uganda. The World Health Organization says mistrust of authorities in the Congo, even attacks on healthcare workers and patients avoiding treatment centres are all exacerbating the problem.
What experts are saying is that global public health has changed, and mainly that's to do with connectivity. It's about more trade and travel, which means people move around more nationally and internationally. And it also means that there's more information flowing. There's good information and there's bad information, but there's a lot more of it out there. And what this means in terms of public health is that now more than ever, it's important to win public trust so that the scientific advances that are being made can be put to use to protect public health.
Making matters worse, some of the affected regions are hotbeds of militant activity. Treatment centres have been repeatedly attacked by armed militiamen and community members who think Ebola is a conspiracy against them and have undermined efforts to contain it.
The key thing is to get into the communities that are affected and win their trust. Try to understand where their fears are coming from, try to give them good information. And what the public health officials in this outbreak are trying to do is get local communities to engage with leaders, with also people who have been directly affected by the disease or have been vaccinated, who can then help their peers understand that vaccination can protect you, treatments can help, and that coming forward, if you're feeling ill, is the best way to stop spreading the disease and your best chance of surviving it.
The challenge of containing Ebola in the Congo has been compared with controlling the spread of cholera in Yemen and measles in the United States. The barriers are often more social than scientific.
Moving on, a group of South African teenagers have assembled a four-seater airplane and are flying it across the continent. Aviation experts consider this a significant feat, one that will inspire teenagers who want to be pilots, engineers or anything else. Maurice de Klerk reports for VOA from Aikenhof, South Africa.
17-year-old Megan Werner doesn't have a driver's license yet, but she's a pilot. Her You Dream Global non-profit helped a diverse group of 20 African teenagers assemble a light aircraft. Werner and some of her colleagues left Cape Town this week for a round-trip flight to Cairo.
If you're a teenager and you already built a plane, you can say to yourself, well, I built a plane when I was a teenager. What else can I do? And then for the teenagers flying it across Africa, just to be able to make a difference and show people what is possible is really inspiring.
Agnes Semela helped to assemble the fuselage for the kit aircraft, which the teens built under qualified adult supervision.
I know for a fact that my team did their best, their absolute best, and I'm very confident that this airplane will make it to Cairo and back.
During the maiden flight event, the South African teens saw their plane fly for the first time.
Seeing that now it's no longer about adult people engaging in this industry, but also young people can get involved in such projects. I think it's going to inspire a lot of people to actually join aviation.
With both her parents working in aviation, Werner's interest in flying is no surprise.
The plan is crazy enough. It doesn't need to be that crazy that my daughter must fly across Africa by herself. So I thought, no, I'll go and check that she's okay. Because I've got a bit more experience than what she has. and I'm there just to support them to make the right decisions.
For safety, 2 adult pilots will fly a second plane similar to the one the teens built for the trip from South to North Africa and back.
Obviously, fatigue plays a big role that we need to manage with the students so that we can make sure that they are always awake, that they're always sharp to be able to make the right decisions. This is going to stretch their limits.
The U-Dream Global team will travel some 12,000 kilometers for the round-trip flight with stops in 11 countries. Along the way, they'll take other teenagers up in the plane to inspire them to also reach for greater heights.
Interesting. Now, for 28 years, Dorothy Ajakije suffered shame and persecution in Gabon for not knowing whether she was male or female after being born with genitals from both sexes. Dr. Michael Obeng helped her dreams of being female be realized. Lauren Anthony reports.
Dorothée Ajakije was born with a condition that left her with 2 genders. But that changed when US-based plastic surgeon Dr. Michael Obeng came to visit her home country of Gabon, offering free services, including Dorothee's gender reassignment surgery. Born with both male and female genitalia, she was treated largely as a boy until puberty. But with age, Dorothée developed a more typically female body type, and she decided she wanted to identify as a woman.
This young lady was born with 2 genders, or what we call ambiguous genitalia. She has breasts, she has a penis, and she has a vestigial vagina, meaning a vagina that has not formed fully. So this morning I am about to remove the penis, use portions of the tip of the penis to make a clitoris so that she can enjoy sex. Make a new vagina for her, put a skin graft to line the vagina, and hopefully she will have a normal looking female anatomy in the pelvic region.
Dorothée says in her culture, those born intersex experience social stigma. She has faced shame and persecution for not knowing her gender, and many associate the condition with witchcraft. She feels this new surgery will give her a new sense of identity and security.
When you live until the age of 28 without knowing if you're a he or a she, when you have to constantly justify who you are, it's not easy. So this will enable me now to be determined about myself and to know where I go now, to fully live a stage of my life, and professionally speaking, it will help me evolve.
Dr. Obeng's visit was the first intervention of its kind in Gabon. The Central African country is home to 2 million people, none of whom have access to a plastic surgeon.
All right, let's take a short break right here on Bottom Line Africa. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be back with more information for you on the other side of this short break. We'll leave you with Destination Africa.
This is KTN News.
So much debate. 154.99.
Tena peke yake mlangoni, peke yake anapiga Ema.
Hassan Oktema, Pesa Premier League.
They are the champions.
I told you to kick it more to the left.
No, kick it higher.
No, to the left. Come on, guys, stop it. Remember the win.
Hi guys, the online ticket train is ready and set to go. You can now put up your ads for all your services or products online by simply going to www.digger.co.ke. How amazing is that? The power to manage your ads is now completely in your hands, no matter where you are, any time of day. Put your ads on Digger Classifieds online for the best deals on classified ads. You can also find Digger branches on Moy Avenue or visit the Standard Ad Center on Banda Street. Get online, get posting, and start selling with Digger. Advertise on Digger Classifieds today. For booking or information, contact us on digger@standardmedia.co.ke or call 0719 01 2287.
The government set aside 60 billion shillings to combat floods. This is in addition to another 17.5 billion shillings infrastructure kitty that the State Department for Infrastructure allocated to fix roads destroyed by rains. This year, over 800,000 Kenyans have been affected by floods, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Hundreds of people were displaced, roads rendered impassable. Schools and hospitals became inaccessible, swathes of farmlands destroyed. Floods and droughts are becoming more frequent due to climate change. This rainfall, which is 4 times the normal average, came on the heels of a devastating 4-year drought. Just a few months ago, many of the counties worst hit by the floods like Wajir were barren wastelands littered with animal carcasses. Garissa is also another county that was hit hard by flooding since the rains began in March. The management of emergencies arising from droughts and floods can be organized into 5 stages: prevention, protection, preparedness, response and recovery. The response to these emergencies will require effective coordination among several institutional and non-institutional actors. While the state has the overall responsibility of reducing disaster risk, managing risks is a shared obligation between government and relevant stakeholders. Water harvesting could be one of the solutions to deal with the floods crisis. Kenya is a signatory to the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, which commits nations to address disaster risk reduction by building resilience to disasters within the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication.
This is KTN News.
Thank you for staying with Bottom Line Africa. We continue with the broadcast. Now, Kenya is set to commemorate 55 years of strategic partnership with neighboring Ethiopia in the backdrop of a new wave of reforms under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Ethiopian ambassador to Kenya, Meles Alem, is keen on fostering the already solid ties between both countries. Earlier, I had a sit-down with the ambassador. Take a look. Kenya and Ethiopia have enjoyed proper bilateral ties, which has seen both countries benefit in terms of numbers, in terms of revenue. And as we are set to join Ethiopia and Kenya in celebrating 55 years of strategic partnership between both countries, we're now set to have a one-on-one conversation with Ambassador Meles Alem. just to take a look at what Ethiopia and Kenya have in store in terms of boosting both countries and boosting the bilateral ties. Ambassador, many thanks for making time.
I thank you so much as an Ethiopian ambassador to Kenya, and who has been very familiar with Kenyans. I'm really honored to have KTN, my official residence, and hold this interview. I'm a Nairobian, I could say. I've been to Nairobi University, so I take myself not only the ambassador of Ethiopia, but also the ambassador of Kenya and Kenyans. Asante sana.
All right, now 55 years down the line, how would you describe the relationship between the two countries?
Ethiopia and Kenya's relations is simply excellent. No matter what kind of government we have, this is what I always say, it's a mantra. We have very strong, cordial, undented relations. The relations dates back to time immemorial. Before we have formal relations, formal diplomatic ties, our people along the border have been enjoying a remarkable fraternity. Following the independence of Kenya, that relationship, that natural relationship has further deepened. We are grateful to Kenyans that you have stood shoulder to shoulder with Ethiopians when we were fighting the fascist Italians. By the same token, the Kenyans were fighting against decolonizations. We were on the side of Kenyans. So history will remember it as one of the best diplomatic relations that Ethiopia enjoy with its neighbors.
All right, Ambassador. Now, Kenya and Ethiopia are among countries in Africa that are leading in terms of economic growth rates. If we look at Ethiopia right now, around 2018, at one point, according to the IMF, it was Africa's fastest growing economy. Kenya, as well, attained middle income status. So we are neighbors, strategic partners as well. Moving forward, how do we focus on ensuring business between both countries is improved so that double digits continue to be churned out by both countries?
You know, the political diplomacy is not an end by itself. It's rather an end, it's rather a means to an end. If political diplomacy doesn't have any dividend to change the lives of our people, it doesn't surmount as something important. So the economic relations between Ethiopia and Kenya is not to the extent of expectations of many of us. But I think cognizant of this importance, our leaders have made sure that a vibrant business community of Kenyans are using the potential in Ethiopia, which is a country of over 100 million people. Kenya is the Silicon Valley of Africa. We can learn much from the IT sector of Kenya. The manufacturing sector has developed ahead of us. Therefore, as Ethiopia is embarking on the industrialization process, we can take leaf from the best practices of Kenya. Therefore, there is huge potential in the Horn of Africa. There is huge potential between Ethiopia and Kenya. So it's incumbent upon us, the people of the region, to integrate our potentials and change the lives of our people.
Now, apart from trade ties between Kenya and Ethiopia, we're also focused on regional security, especially within the Horn of Africa region. Kenya and Ethiopia actually, give a substantial amount of troops in terms of the AMISOM troops who are set to ensure that safety and peace is brought to Somalia. Now, in terms of the foreign policy within Ethiopia, especially towards the Horn of Africa region, what is your take on the withdrawal of troops from Somalia?
The stability of Somalia is the stability of Ethiopia. The stability of Somalia is the stability of Kenya. That's why both countries have deployed their troops to that sisterly country, sisterly African country. So in our view, stabilizing Somalia is a prime responsibility of its people. But at the end of the day, as good neighbors, as good sister countries, we have also the moral responsibility to support Somalia's endeavor in the Pacific, in their efforts of pacifications. So we are neighbors. We are destined to be together. We have not chosen to be neighbor to one another. It's only the friend that you can choose. Therefore, it is incumbent upon countries in the region to stand on one's shoulder at all trying moments. As the saying goes, once again, you can choose your neighbor, you cannot choose, you can choose your friend, but you cannot choose your neighbor. So we are here to support Somalis overcome the challenge they have. Ethiopia has been engulfed in crisis for many years. We had civil wars. It was our neighbors like Kenyans who stood on our side during all those darkest moments. You can see many Ethiopians in Nairobi. Ethiopians make one of the biggest populations of this metropolis. Kenyans were on our side. So it is high time for us as a good neighbor to stand on the sides of our neighbors in Somalia in particular.
Let's focus on Ethiopia. In the last couple of years, substantial reforms have actually taken place under the leadership of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. I mean, while we were talking earlier on, you categorically mentioned that his vision is towards a strong, prosperous and democratic Ethiopia. But, this path obviously has its challenges. But just let's expand on the vision that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has for the country. Where does he see Ethiopia in the next 50 years or so?
Following the election of His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Ethiopia is making unparalleled reforms, both political and economical. As you said, politically speaking, the government is making reforms to widen political space. We have over 100 political parties in the country. The election commission is also led by the former opposition leader, Dr. Kwan, who was an opposition, you see. So politically speaking, we have a cabinet which is 50% women and with the president as of last year. The president of the Supreme High Court is a woman. So the role of women in the political sphere in the country is expanding by the day. Ethiopia has become one of those few African countries with the highest representation of women, which makes the bigger chunk of society. You can't achieve economic progress, you can't achieve peace in your country if women's issue of rights are addressed. So the gender parity is one of the best achievements Ethiopia have made in the past 1 year. Dissident groups are now back home. Some Ethiopian diaspora who have been away for half a century are now invited, have become part of the ongoing political process. Economically speaking, the government also restructuring the economy. We are opening up. legal frameworks and regimes are also revised to make sure that at local level domestic entrepreneurs will have an ample playing ground, and also encourage foreign investors to come to Ethiopia. In fact, following these measures, the number of Kenyan businessmen interested to go to Addis is increasing by the day. Every other day we receive like 4 or 5 Kenyan investors who would like to go to Addis Ababa. The Kenyan Investment Authority also encouraging. I want to commend for this efforts. The Kenyans are visiting us. They want to go to Ethiopia. They want to invest in Ethiopia. So the ongoing reform in Ethiopia, both political and economical, for sure will transform the country and help it achieve the remarkable economic growth it has been registering for the past 1 decade.
All right. Let's talk about the big vision that is the Lamu Port South Sudan Ethiopia project, better known as the LAPSET project. It was initially part of Kenya's Vision 2030 with the goal of transforming the socio-economic lifestyle of the region. Numerous challenges have come up ever since this idea was incepted. Though Ethiopia has actually continued with its support of the LAPSET project, Kenya as well, and we well know of the other countries that are set to benefit in the region in terms of the LAPSET project. What vision do you have in terms of the LAPSET project and in terms of the repercussions, the positive repercussions for both countries, Kenya and Ethiopia? What economic benefits will it bring in terms of trickling down to the normal Kenyan and Ethiopia and the other country members as well?
To start with, you can't contemplate economic prosperity without infrastructural connectivity. So Ethiopia is always committed to the LAPSET project, which really transform the region. As you know, the LAPSET project was signed between Kenya, Ethiopia, and Sudan. Entails port, road, pipeline, and many other facilities. So the completions of the LAPSET project is in the best interest of Ethiopia. For somebody to contemplate that Ethiopia is not interested in the LAPSET project. The project, among others, has this issue of port. Ethiopia, as a landlocked country, we need ports. As the birth of the constructions of the berth and undergoing, it is really very important that we will have access to Kenyan ports in making sure the economic progress that we have been registering in the past few years will be continuing.
So Ethiopia's stand on peace and stability is well known. I mean, it can be seen from the efforts in Djibouti, the efforts in other countries within the Horn of Africa region. So it's very clear that Ethiopia champions for peace in the region. But there have been allegations that have surfaced in terms of conspiracy against Kenya when we look at maintaining its grip on the Horn of Africa region. Ambassador, what do you have to say about these allegations?
Ethiopia's foreign policy, as I said, is unequivocal about our neighbors. Our neighbors are our priorities. We don't think that we can be an island of peace when our neighbors are in turmoil. Ethiopia cannot prosper alone in the conflict-ridden and famine-infested region. So we always champion to work for peace and the stability of the Horn of Africa. The same is true with Kenya. With Kenya, we have a strong traditional, symbolic relationship that dates back to time immemorial. If Ethiopia wants to prosper, it's only with our neighbors in Kenya in particular. So whatever some analysts are saying about making proxies with this or that, These are simplistic and ridiculous comments which doesn't sort on the ground. Our governments, they know what they do. They are working to make sure that both Ethiopia and Kenya prosper together.
Ambassador, it was truly a pleasure getting a one-on-one sit-down with you. We're definitely keeping our heads up in terms of the foreign policy that Ethiopia has, and of course looking forward to better bilateral relations between Kenya and Ethiopia. Many thanks for making time.
It's my pleasure, and asante sana.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move over to the images of the day. David Guetta, the Black Eyed Peas, as well as Travis Scott headlined the 18th Mawazin Festival in Rabat, Morocco, which brought together in a range of international artists from different musical genres. A Spanish singer, Rosalia, known for her fusion of flamenco and urban music, kicked off the festival on Friday on the international stage. Here are some of the sights and sounds from the 2019 Mawazin Music Festival.
De la disco pa'l hotel, mamá la zorra, todo me lo gasto, no ahorro. Machica, 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 turbo nitro en la máquina, siempre. Estoy muy borracho y no puedo más.
Andiamo lo canto con Honduras.
All right, those are the images we had for you on today's edition of Bottom Line Africa. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Hope you're adequately informed. Let's meet tomorrow, same place, same time for the latest in terms of continental news. My name is Jesse Rogers. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Coming up next, Business Today with Malika Kazia.